Okay.
Okay, so welcome everybody. My name is Paul Downie. I'm the director of the Community Arts Center in Wallingford. Um, we're a community-based organization that primarily deals with visual arts here in Delaware County. But we do have a music series, and we're here today to have a conversation about a particular event in that series. The series is called Friday Night Live, and we've been doing it for about 11 years now. And we always try to add to it each year and do some different things. We're fortunate to have a presenting sponsor from PNC Bank again this year. And we're here today to talk about a particular event in the series. That's going to be a Juneteenth celebration coming up on June 17th. That's the Friday before the actual holiday. And we're also grateful that we have support from PA Humanities for this particular event in the series. So I'm going to start by introducing Bert Harris. Bert has been playing bass and composing music and doing all sorts of musical things around the Philadelphia region for decades, many years. I'll let Bert get more specific on the number of years if he wants, but
It feels like centuries.
we're
I was going to say that.
we're
You
very
decades
proud to have
Like just
at
saying
least a
just
half a
decades.
century. We can
Half
say
a
half a
it
century.
depends how many of your lives you count, Bert.
Okay.
So we're grateful to Bert. He came to me with the idea to do a Juneteenth specific event in the series this year, and I thought it was a fabulous idea. I was excited about it, and I asked him to curate it. And so he's going to probably be doing a healthy amount of the talking today, but we have a number of the other artists with us today who are involved, and I hope to hear from them all. So if we could, Bert, if I could just start by asking you, what gave you the idea to, why did you come to us initially with wanting to organize this here at the Arts Center this year?
Well, I knew that the Arts Center had a really good history of like presenting important concerts and shows and being very open to creativity, not just musically, but also doing things that had historical reference. And the historical reference of Juneteenth has just grown kind of astronomically since George Floyd's death. And it just feels like the country is much more cognizant of it. There's much more legislation to acknowledge it as a holiday. And there's just, I thought about how music, art, dance, poetry has been like such a vehicle for the survival of enslaved Africans who became, quote unquote, free in America. And it continues today to be such a platform for us to survive in America, not just through the pathos and terrorism of being a Black person in America, but in expressing that, but also it has helped us to reach into that deep pool of joy that I often feel when I listen to African American music and see African American dance, look at African American art, and hear poetry. So I'm glad that you were so receptive to it, Paul. It was like instantly that you said, yes, that's a good idea. I think we were actually going to do a blues show down in Wildwood, and we started talking about it, and it just went on. So the planning for this is, I think I reached out to people as far back as November or October to
Right.
start thinking about it. And everybody, except one person that I talked to initially, has been consistently involved, has been a great collaborator, partner, um, creative consultant, technical consultant. I couldn't ask for a better team.
Well, that's fantastic. Yeah, we started the conversation about doing this event quite a few months back, and I know you've been moving it forward behind the scenes in various ways. Um, I wonder, I think maybe it'd be good time to talk about some of the other performers that you asked to participate. Some of them are here with us today, and maybe we could start with them. And I don't know if you want to have them introduce themselves, Bert, and then maybe talk a little bit about some of the folks who aren't here today, but will also be on the program.
Yeah, I mean, we can go from, I guess my screen is like left to right. So I see LB, then I see Jocko, Karen, and Kevin's down in the corner. Missing is Jerry Oliver. Jerry Oliver is a fantastic vocalist from Philadelphia. Has been on the scene for a long time. Also missing is David Fishkin, who I met through playing jazz and ska and reggae. And he's an alto sax player. Also missing is David Dubinsky, who I met through giving a composition to the Philadelphia Real Book concerts. And they had a Real Book fake book that they did, a Philadelphia artist, and 2 of my songs were accepted. And Lauren Putty White is going to be the dancer. He's just a phenomenal dancer. Just like a very organic performer. Just like as soon as the music starts, she just channels it right into her soul. So it's going to be a really exciting show. And I met Fairland through Karen several months ago. And we had been doing some rehearsals at her house, kind of not knowing what kind of gigs were going to come up, I guess, initially, Fairland, but we were having a lot of fun, and you know, we knew that things would come. So some things have come. One of the things that came was that she did a show with Jocko, Karen, and I of the music of Jimmy Heath put to poetry and spoken word. I think that covers oh, and also Rich Robinson, who you know for a long time, Paul. He's going to be playing he's going to be playing shaker ray and various kinds of African percussion. And Karen, I feel like Karen feels like my sister from another mother. You know, I just love her playing. She's also a poet, musician, theater entrepreneur and direct. I mean, Karen, I'm just like happy that Karen's like in the country at the moment and will be able to do this gig because she's always hustling things and it's just doing, you know, her depth is deep and wide. So LB I've known for a very long time. We go back about 15 years now, I guess, right? Yeah, doing music together. Kevin, how did I meet you?
You know, that's interesting. I felt like I feel like I've known you
Karen.
for a long time. It might have been through Karen.
That's through Karen, yeah.
But yeah. But yeah, the musical community, we've crossed paths in so many different, projects. Yeah,
Right. Actually, I do remember was a just a bass, vocal, and percussion thing we did at that store on Spruce Street.
Was that the first time we worked together?
That was the first time we worked together, and then we worked together with Marcel, I guess, about a year ago.
Right. Okay.
So Bert, if you don't mind me interjecting, for the folks that are here, maybe we could give a moment to share a little bit about their musical background and maybe why they're interested in participating in this particular program. You know, there are the personal musical connections, of course. You know, we all have those bonds, and it's really nice to hear how many of you connected with Bert. But I think it'd be really also nice for folks to share a little bit more about their background, maybe what music has done in their lives or where they come from and why it's of interest. Is that Karen, could I put you on the spot and ask you to start? Because I know you're going to have an answer.
Well, I'm at the juice room up in Mount Airy having some lunch too. I'm double dipping. And just, you know, it's hard to say no to Bert, first of all, because he's extremely creative and, you know, he also buys my pies, so he keeps me.
I don't regret it at all, you know. I got to lose some weight now, but you know.
But now that Juneteenth is practically a holiday and recognized, I can't say no to any project that leads towards Juneteenth and including more and more of our lost history. So I'm glad to be a part of it. I love Paul. Actually, I know everybody that's on here because I worked with everybody before. And I love creativity and thinking outside the box. And that's what's definitely allowed, as well as being on the set of Bert Harris too. So I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you, Karen. Any particular, just as a reminder to anyone who doesn't know you, who watches Karen's a multifaceted percussionist and playwright and poet. Any particular drumming tradition or performers, Karen, that were big inspirations to you as you came up and began, the path of percussion?
One of the popular percussionists I'm from New York, and that I heard a lot of was LaRock Bay. I don't know if you're familiar with LaRock Bay. He had a company out in Queens. Actually, he was one instrumental in the song, Funga Alafia. So you know him more so from that song because he created over here. But he was an inspiration, and one of my cousins was his mentor. So my cousin Brad, he's another one of my mentors. But when I think of just what I do, I feel like it's so ancestral. So I give it to the ancestors. Wherever it's coming from, that's what's coming. That's what you hear from me. Since I'm trained per se, went to school for this. Definitely a special gift. So what you'll hear for that weekend is me bringing in the ancestors that are needed to say something and express themselves through my rhythms.
Fantastic. Thank you, Karen, for sharing that. What about Kevin? Would you share, Kevin, a little bit more about maybe some of the songs that I think you and Bert's probably worked together to select some of the songs that you'll be singing? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. As a jazz vocalist, kind of coming up in the tradition, I'm accustomed to singing songs about boy loves girl, girl loves boy, great tunes, great vehicles. But there's something that Bert mentioned earlier about the arts relating to where we are and where we're going that really hit me when he asked me about this project. So having the opportunity to do tunes that aren't necessarily about girl loves boy, boy loves girl, that kind of thing, and actually deal with where we are now on a social level, on a political level, was fantastic for me. That opportunity I just jumped at, because there are so many tunes that I have loved growing up. I grew up in New York, the Bronx, and Harlem, that I heard throughout my life that, I'd be singing to myself, but never really tackled. But I never really tackled them when I was doing something artistic for myself. So when we started to talk about Lady Day, John Coltrane, or compared to what in those tunes, I just started salivating as soon as those tunes came up, because it's like, I've loved these tunes for so many years, and it gives me a chance to present a different approach that I probably haven't had a chance to do for a long time. I mean, I came up as a youngster singing in the boys choir of Harlem, and we did some, spiritual things and things that were, related to, more of the religious front, and some of that was slightly political. But this present opportunity kind of directly goes to the heart of that. And so that just, like I said, really just turned me on and excites me. And I can't wait to hit the stage with this one. This is going to be fantastic.
Thanks, Kevin. That's great. Great to hear about all that in your background. What about, who else do we have here? How about LB? LB, I know I know you have a background in various kinds of music. We've talked at pretty good length about some of the different things you've done in the past. I wonder if you would share a little bit with folks about your musical background and maybe how it fits in here.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. But before I wanted to do the musical background, I just wanted just to say how significant Juneteenth is to me, because Juneteenth, just as a little history, started in Galveston, Texas in 1865. And it's a celebration because it was 2.5 years after the Emancipation Proclamation that just because you have a war doesn't mean people surrender. It took time for Robert E. Lee to surrender, and it took years. And it was 2.5 years later, after he surrendered, that you had Union soldiers come into Texas and finally to free all people. It's a joyous occasion. It doesn't just mean that that particular point, it means we're all free. And it's a celebration for everybody. And that's why I really feel close to this. It's a very creative celebration where we all, it's not until we're all free that we're free. So I just wanted just to state that how close that is to me. In terms of my background, I've had various amounts or various types of music that I played. I came up through the Temple Music School, and there, which was very creative, starting with jazz and starting to play jazz, even in my high school and junior high school career. But it wasn't until college that I really burst through in terms of being part of a Latin band. This was a salsa band really coming up in Philadelphia. It was called Panama. And that was the time when you had merengue. It was the time when you had salsa. It was a time when you had big bands coming in from all over the world. It was great. And with various types of other friends, we started jazz groups, and various mentors that I've had who started me playing jazz. And I just had a great experience doing that. In terms of this occasion, one of the things that really I'm excited about is I have a chance to do a tune that Bert suggested that he's heard me do, and it's called Peace. It's by Horace Silver. And Horace Silver actually said that when he composed this, that there was an angel standing over him, encouraging him for this song. And the creative part that I'm going to bring here is where I started music was playing the clarinet. And it's my mother instrument. And it's had a lot of influence in jazz, but it hasn't done, what can I say? It's not a present instrument that's being used in jazz. So being creative and doing a song like Peace dedicated to this occasion, I feel really proud that I be able to use my mother instrument and use the clarinet to do that creative part.
Fantastic. Thanks, LB. Who else do we have? Fairland, this is, as I mentioned, I think before I started the video, this is my first time actually meeting you, and I'm looking forward to meeting you in person. So I wonder if you could share, being a poet in the group, a poet vocalist. Was so pleased when Bert told me that he had enlisted you to be part of this. So I wonder if maybe you could share a little bit, whatever you feel like sharing about perhaps some of the pieces you're going to be involved in presenting, and a little bit about your background, if that's okay.
Sure. It's a pleasure to meet you as well, Paul. And I'm also meeting some others of you for the first time, many of you. The people that I already know are Karen, Bert, and Jocko. So again, my name is Fairland Dove. I'm a poet and a visual artist. I'm based in Philadelphia, it's my hometown. And my mother was born in 1928 in the Jim Crow South, South Carolina. And she experienced the Depression. She experienced a lot of history during her time. And one of the things she taught us about, I'm one of 5 children, she taught us about Juneteenth growing up. And I just remember when that word would roll off her tongue, Juneteenth, it just had such an interesting ring to my ears, because I never actually heard anyone utter it other than my mother for most of my life. Mm-hmm. And now it's become, I mean, you're going to have Juneteenth celebrations, and they take all different types of forms. So, of course, I'm very, very honored to be a part of this Juneteenth Arts Ensemble. And I will say that I met Karen and Jocko. We worked on a gig together at World Cafe Live. It was called Percussion Discussion. It was a tribute to Sun Ra. It was part of a series of tributes to Sun Ra. And that was our first time working together. And after that gig, Karen and I seemed to just start working together like a lot. We were just in a lot of the same spaces. So even though I do visual art, I'm really known as a poet. And more specifically, I work a lot with musicians. So I've worked with Tyrone Brown, Odine Pope. I've worked with, Jocko, Karen. I've worked with Kendra Butler Waters. I mean, I could just name dozens of people, Ella Gant, Joylette Harris. I could just, Warren Ori. I could just really name lots and lots of musicians in the area that I've had the privilege to do my poetry with and to be encouraged by. So when the idea to be a part of the Juneteenth Arts Ensemble came up, I just felt very honored and very humbled. I'm going to have an opportunity to read the lyrics and poetry of some of our greats, and I'm also going to have the opportunity to share some of my own original poems. So Still I Rise by Maya Angelou is one of the poems I will recite at Bert's request. I have recited this poem before Bert as a request. It's one of my favorites. I've always loved Maya Angelou. In terms of poets who really inspired me, I just finished telling the group before we went on the air, I graduated from Hampton Institute, which is now Hampton University. But even before Hampton, Nikki Giovanni was a huge influence on me. The Last Poets, Gil Scott-Heron. These are all poets who just made their mark on me and made a huge impression on me during my youth, but I never could have guessed when I was listening to Nikki Giovanni, when I was listening to The Last Poets, when I was listening to Gil Scott, I never could have guessed that fast forward all these years, and I would not only be repeating some of their words, but I would also be speaking words that have been, channeled through me. And also going to be able to read the words from the lyrics of Strange Fruit, which was recorded famously by Billie Holiday. So I'm really honored, I'm really humbled, I'm excited about this creative challenge. I'm really love collaborations, and I love that we have so many types of musicians and artists that are involved in this ensemble. So I'm really looking forward to this collaboration, and I just feel very honored and very humbled.
That's fabulous. Thank you so much, Farrell. And knowing now, realizing that you're also a visual artist, I'll look forward to showing you the Art Center when you're here. We mentioned at the very beginning, that's actually the main thrust of this organization is visual arts. Mm-hmm. So I think
we got Jocko.
We haven't heard from Jocko yet. Yeah. So and he's back from his kitchen emergency.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yogurt,
Hi, Amy.
Hey, these things happen.
I smelled something coming from the kitchen. It was boiling over milk. So
would you mind sharing with us, I don't know, whatever you think is relevant, Jocko, in that huge mind of yours? Maybe some bits about your musical background, maybe something about how you and Bert often collaborate, but maybe just share what comes to your mind about it.
Yeah, well, I've got yeah, Bert and I were we were just musical and regular brothers from the moment I got here 12 years ago. And I've often said I fell in love with Philly immediately just because of the cloud of musical history I find myself in. I mean, you know, everything from Dick Clark and the Dovells to Sun Ra. It's all here. And but yeah, I'm gonna be playing guitar on this and oud, a little oud, yeah. And when I got here, I was telling everybody I was a bass player, and people tend to put me to work as a guitar player. I don't know if that's a I don't know if that's a statement on my bass playing, but
Hey, Jocko, believe me, it's not. I'm glad you're not playing bass a lot. And a lot of other basses are, you know.
But I was I became completely obsessed when I was in about the 7th grade with soul music. I grew up in New York. You know, you just had the radio on 24 hours a day. And I listened to the same things everybody else in my class, just sort of teeny bop rock and roll radio. And then I discovered that station at the very end of the AM dial. And when I went off to high school, I was studying classical guitar. So I was a classical guitar major in college who had dreamed of playing James Brown, playing with James Brown, and it led to some confusion. And the realization is that the music by heart is closer to Memphis than Vienna. So yeah, I'm just overjoyed to be part of this and be participating in, and in my own small way contributing to this beautiful culture. It's a beautiful world culture, and it's great. It's something I've always wanted, is to be part of enterprises like this, taking chances, having the music, having it do something, having it have an effect.
Meaningful, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jocko. I guess kind of I'm happy to open it up, and any other thoughts people want to share. But the last thing I kind of wanted to do was to go back to Bert and ask him, because he's really the person who's created and pulling together the vision overall with everyone's contributions. I wanted to ask you, Bert, you had sort of touched on this to me, and I thought it'd be nice to share. What is it that you're hoping people will take away from, folks who come out and spend the evening with us? What do you hope they'll get out of it, or what do you hope they'll take away as far as an overarching feeling? I guess I'm wondering what you're trying to present, if you could distill it,
Yeah, I had thought a lot about this, and there was so much music that I originally had wanted to do, but I know it's supposed to be like 2 60-minute sets, but I got to be honest, it's probably going to be like a 60-minute set and a 90-minute set, if that's okay. So
we got plenty of time.
Oh, that's good, because it's just really hard to narrow it down. And I thought about it, presenting it as like a journey of like an African, you know, before being captured and sold. So there's a song that I wrote that we're going to play that's dedicated to children who became enslaved. And then that journey from in a boat with adults in the bottom of a slave ship, 6-week journey through the Middle Passage, to the shores of America, and to bondage. And this is a journey through bondage to quote unquote freedom, to still struggling today with what it really means to be in a society that still does not really want you to be here, that does not see you as an equal person, an equal human being. So there's no way to really lighten this up, and there's no way to minimize the significance of how music, art, poetry, dance have helped African Americans to survive. But also we've given so much to the entire world through our experience here. I mean, I remember one time Quincy Jones said that Black music is like the motor of like popular music. And Santana said if it wasn't for Africans, all we would have is like waltzes. You know, nothing against waltzes, but you know, 6/8 and like funk grooves came out of Africa, still really dominate the world today. So I really want the music, the experience to represent how we've survived and still thrive. And got Fairland doing like a little bit of hip hop. We got some jazz, we got some reggae, we got some blues. We have some original tunes. We have a wonderful tune by Jocko called Streets of America that's actually came about through the Black Lives Matter movement. I mean, there's so many names that, you know, we could get into that of African Americans who were murdered by the police. But that song really is an instrumental that came out of that understanding in that history of America. So yeah, each of the songs is selected for a particular reason, you know, and there'll be a little bit of explaining of why those songs were selected, but I really want the music to speak for itself. There's like vocal tunes and there's also instrumental tunes.
So it's diverse, it's a rich, you're feeling like you're hoping folks will take away from it sort of a rich experience, maybe a broad experience of different types of music and also different components of industry. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, different time frames of like what the African American experience has been like in America. What an African experience was like before slavery came. You know, the joy of what that life must have been like.
Right. Yeah. Well, I want to thank you, Bert, again, as I have in person, but I want to thank you for having the vision, for moving it forward. And I'm really excited. We're a little more than a month out from this performance. It's going to happen here at the Community Arts Center on Friday, June 17th. And I want to thank everybody for joining us today to share a little bit about your background and talk about what we're working on here. I hope this will help folks to get a sense of what we're going to be presenting. So does anyone else have any final thoughts you want to share before we conclude? Or
I just want to thank all the musicians and the poets and the dancers who are participating in this. They've been a breeze to work with. It's you know, working with 10 people and coordinating 10 people is not easy. But it has been very, very easy with this group of people. They really came with their A game on. It's really coming together really easily. So just want to thank you all.
Very good.
Hey,
Well,
Karen, did I get a free pie?
You just never know.
Yeah, I hope we're in the baking season by June 17th. Man, you know, we're gonna have like a sort of a pie pregame, I think.
I think she's not starting again until September, but I'm putting in my, you know, now. Okay, all right.
Well, thanks everybody. I hope I didn't take up too much of your
you got anything to say, Bruce?
we'll see everyone soon. I'm gonna
Okay, all right.
All right.
Take care.
take care now.
Take care.